Welcome back. This is the third and final installment in this video series on best practices in teaching online. This third video is going to hit this goal of leveraging technology, and I'll be sharing some tips and tricks for getting the most out of technology to teach effectively online. So I'm going to scroll down to our section on leveraging technology. So I wanted to start by sharing a whole bunch of best practices in Moodle. Moodle is the LMS that we use here at Nazareth, and a lot of my examples are coming from this sample course I've created for you all. And this is a flipped course, which means that most of the all of the content pretty much that my students learned in this graduate class focused on literacy assessment was built in Moodle. So that I posted a ton of lecture videos and readings and content for them in Moodle using the book tool in Moodle, which is here, this tool here. So they would read through, they would get lecture videos, they would access readings. And the expectation, here's a podcast they listened to. The expectation was that they went through all of this content before they came to class each week. And then we had synchronous Zoom classes. Actually, I think in the sample one, it was in person, but I have also taught this course where the meetings were synchronous in Zoom, and we would go over all of the topics. So I just wanted to share the context for this sample course that you all have access to, and you can link in, click around, see if you like anything. You can use the export feature, the course reuse feature to borrow it. Go ahead and borrow any of the content that you see in this class that you like. If you like the setup, feel free to use it. It is a copy of a class that I've taught in the past. So most of the stuff is going to come from that class that I share, but not all of it. So I'll let you know when it's coming from elsewhere. But these are the practices, and then here is what everything looks like in Moodle. And I'm just going to dive right in, starting with creating a welcoming course page in your Moodle class. So your course page is the place when you're teaching a fully online class where your students are going to spend the most time. So you want to make sure that it looks inviting and that it's organized and that there is space for your students to connect with each other and with you. Canva is one of my favorite tools, and there is a free, I have the personally paid for Canva. No, TLT does not have subscriptions and cannot help you pay for this. But if you are willing to pay for Canva, great. If not, there are lots of free options for you. And you can see I use Canva to create flyers, to create all kinds of things, newsletters, banners for my classes, but I really like Canva as a tool for creating course banners. This is going to link you out to the TLT faculty support site where Mary Beth has developed. Mary Beth Kuhn is our instructional technology specialist, and the faculty support site is sort of the landing page for the tutorials, the guides, the walkthroughs. And Mary Beth has this guide on how to add a banner to your course. So you can see at the top of my sample flipped course, I've got this beautiful banner. I made it in Canva. It wasn't anything spectacular. It's right here. So you just open up a new blank space and you edit it, and you can add text, you can add images. This was a template that all I did was plug in the information on my course. So the faculty support site will walk you through step by step how to do that. I also, as you heard me say previously, like to include a welcome video in all of my courses. So you can see I put it right at the top of the page. I just go into edit mode by toggling edit on, and then I am adding a video right to the course welcome, right underneath course welcome at the top of my page. And I don't leave this up all semester. Once we're into week 3 or 4, I'll take down my video, so it's not featured here. But I like to have, and this is just me saying, hey, welcome to the class. I'm Dr. Sturm. So happy to have you here. But I put it right front and center. I make it so that the video shows in Moodle. And you can do this by editing the settings, clicking display on the home page. And this is just a YouTube link that I've got actually playing right there and displaying right there. I'm going to click save and display. And because I have display description, it's going to actually show that video right on the home page. So when I go back to my home page, you can see it there. It's a great idea. It's a nice, like, visible welcome from you as your students enter your class. So that is creating a welcoming course page. Beyond that, you want to make sure that your course is organized super clearly. So the research on how the brain functions, the neuroscience behind learning online shows us that tells us that when we have a really organized and consistent and repeatable and patterned class developed for our students in our LMS, it takes some of the cognitive load off of them so they're not having to think, now, where did I find that? Or how do I get to that? Or what did she want us to do there? It takes that guesswork away so they can focus more just on the content and the tasks that you're asking them to do. So, the way you can do this in Moodle, and this is again my flipped class. I'm going to stay here because I have some screenshots instead of bouncing out, but you can go see in the course if you'd like. Every week is separated in a Moodle section that's titled exactly the same every week. So you can have week one, you can have module one, however you want. Name the content, follow the same pattern for the entire semester. So in this class, every single week, every 2 weeks actually was called module, whatever the number, one, two, three. I think I had six total. And I would put complete by September 14th. So less important to me was naming the topic covered, more important because this class was flipped and hybrid. So we were sometimes meeting in person, we were sometimes meeting on Zoom. It was every other week, and most of the content lived in Moodle. So to be super clear, I would say Module 1 must be done by September 14th. Module 2 must be done by September 28th. It doesn't matter what system you use, just be consistent and stick to it and make it super clear for your students. So every week had the module name, had a little description and the objectives that I had for them. So this week, I need you to understand and analyze bias and literacy assessment. We're going to explore what culturally responsive literacy assessment means, blah, blah, blah. I would also tell them you have to repeat, you have to complete everything in this module by September 14th. The more times you have it repeated, the less confusion there will be. Then I've got a book and every single week. Then I've got my class slides posted when I open the module for them 2 weeks before. So I always had the current module and the next week's module open, including the class slides, trying to be so transparent in what's coming, what they can expect, so they can see, here's what you have to do, here's what we're going to do in class when you come. I had the format of when and where we're meeting. I had the tasks that they have to do after class, and every week had a quiz, and every week has attendance. Look at how these 2 weeks look almost identical. It's all the same pattern, and that is for every single module except like the end where they did final project presentations instead of the content and the learning. But every week is laid out consistently and repeatedly the exact same. So they know exactly what is expected of them. My content was organized, stuff was in folders, files were all located in the same place, so they're not digging and hunting. If your students ever say something to you like, there's so much in this class, I get lost, I don't know where to find the assignment, I couldn't find the readings for this week, you might have a course organization issue. So just think about how you're laying out your content every week or every module in an easily repeated and findable format. The stars are going to take you to the faculty support site, and this one is really walking you through like how to set up your course, the course layout that you're choosing, how to turn on editing, how to make those section titles and headers, how to use your course announcements. These are just some of the basics of how to use Moodle so that you can get your class to look like this. So these are all activities that I'm adding. This is a label, a text item with a image put in front of it. And then, oops, sorry, these are going to be the folder names. And then I use labels for the big descriptions in each section. And you can find that information on our faculty support site. One thing you probably noticed that I do in all of my weeks, all of my modules, is to have a clearly stated objective that my students can see. At the top of every weekly section, sometimes I even embed it into the book that we're working on. So this is the content inside that Module 2 Moodle book. I'm repeating, here are the goals for your learning in Module 2. At the end of this module, I will be able to, and then I list off all the things that they need to do. Again, this was a jam-packed class, so I've got 5 things I need them to do in 2 weeks of learning. Try to include important dates, assignments, activities that they can also expect for that week. That in my flipped class is coming further along in the book that they're working their way through, but it's good to put that front and center. Also good is consistency in language. So this is coming from Nicole Jersevich's ACS course template. And I just wanted to illustrate to you how all of the assignments that Nicole creates are clearly labeled in the section of the class. Look at her section headings. Week 1, here's the topic. Week 2, here's the topic, repeated through the whole semester. Due dates are super clearly labeled, and she's even put them on the headings for those assignments. So she's got homework and the due date, homework and the due date, homework and the due date. So the students know every single time they have homework and the due date. It doesn't, again, matter necessarily the words that you're using as long as it is consistent. So every single time there is homework for ACS, it is labeled and named in the same exact way. And the way that the sections are labeled and named is the exact same through the whole course. That consistency creates that understanding in your students, that decreased anxiety because you're not disorganized, so their brains don't have to work extra hard to understand how you structured and organized things. So use clear labels, use clear descriptions, post things as far in advance as you can, especially with homework assignments and big assignments that are Dropbox. This leads into transparency and grading. So Gradebook is the Moodle tool where instructors can post their student grades on assignments and quizzes and discussion forums and even attendance and participation. Setting up your gradebook does take some time, which is outside of the purview of this workshop. There are lots of tools and lots of supports that are in place at Nazareth for you to learn more about Gradebook. There is an entire page of our faculty support site just for gradebook, how to add categories and items to your gradebook, how to weight your grades. So if you've got, 6 homework assignments, but you only want them to total 25% of your course grade, this page will help you understand how to do that. Overriding grades, how to do extra credit, which can be really complicated in Moodle. All of that is explained in our faculty support site, and also Mary Beth Kuhn and TLT will run workshops on this. But the bottom line for this workshop is do set up your gradebook. It takes some time. You might need to ask for help, and that's okay. TLT is happy to provide it. But once you set it up, you really don't need to touch it for the rest of the semester. But this regular, efficient grading of student work leads to more transparency in your teaching. So your students are never wondering, geez, where do I stand in Dr. Sturm's class? Every time they've got an assignment, I'm posting their grade to the gradebook within a week of receiving it so that they always know where they stand. And you can see some screenshots of this, and you can also go back to my sample flipped class and check out my grade book by clicking on grades. Grader report is not super helpful. I would rather see you going into gradebook setup, and you can see I've got some other faculty in this class. So no, they're not students, they're faculty. But this is how I've set up my gradebook. If you want to do something similar, you can copy my gradebook item by item if you'd like. You can see how my assignments worth 15%. That's the first assignment. I got a bunch of repeatable quizzes in the class. They're going to total 20% here. And that, sorry, the quizzes are going to total 25%, and I've got five of them, so they are broken up like this. And then you can see my attendance and participation is worth 15%, and it's broken up by the 6 or 7 sessions that I have with students. And here's another major assignment. Here's another major assignment. So you can see how things were set up and how the max grade settings look in this class. But I do recommend setting up your grade book. This is what I just shared with you in the course, the sample grade book. This is just a screenshot in case you want to also try to set your grade book up in a similar way. So the next is a framework that I highly recommend you look into. It's the Transparency in Assignment Design, or Transparency in Learning and Teaching, the TILT framework. Transparent assignments are clear and detailed. They include descriptions of the purpose, the steps that your students will take to complete the assigned tasks, and the criteria that you're using to grade them. A really good inclusive teaching practice that universally supports all of your students is to provide samples of work so they can see exactly what to expect. That doesn't mean you have to offer an entire paper, like here's an A from last semester, but maybe it's like, here is the analysis section of a paper that did really well last semester. Take a quick peek, and maybe you're only offering the first 2 paragraphs or something. So they're not getting the entire assignment, but sample work wherever you land on the on the debate around providing samples. The fact is it does help your students to be able to see what you want. That combined with really transparent assignment descriptions like this one over here. This is coming from my flipped class. I try to just put every detail that I can into my assignment description. So when is it due? How much is it worth? What are they actually doing for this assignment? And you can see instead of a sample for this assignment, I created a template for them because it was just like they had to go collect data and I just needed them to put it in this specific format for me and answer these specific questions. So this one had a template, also a good inclusive practice. And then I include a purpose for the assignment. This is to answer that question of why do we have to do this? And if you can't write a clear purpose to your assignment, you yourself can't write that, then maybe you need to ask yourself, do your students really need to be doing that assignment? Or are you doing it just because you inherited it from someone else, or this is how you've always taught the class? So if you can't answer what's the purpose, think long and hard about the purpose. How are they submitting? It's an assignment Dropbox by midnight. And then the grading criteria, I'm a big fan of rubrics with progression levels so students can see exactly how they're being graded on formatting, exactly how they're being graded on each section of that assignment. So essentially the template, I took each question, each section, and I broke it down into a row on my rubric. And each row of the rubric gets graded. My hot take, I'm not grading students for grammar and mechanics. You will never see me grading a student for mechanics and grammar in my papers. And yes, this was a literacy graduate program. That doesn't mean they're not getting feedback from me, but my stance on that is in order to be more inclusive of students who are not super comfortable in the academic space or didn't grow up speaking standard American vernacular of English. I don't want to penalize them for not having that background knowledge. And since I'm not teaching them all of the grammar and mechanics in this class, I can't grade them on it, in my opinion. So I am grading them on APA. I teach them how to do APA formatting, so they're getting graded on that. I'm giving them loads of like copy editing feedback on their writing so that they continue to grow and develop as professional writers, but you're never going to see it unless I teach it on one of my scoring rubrics. That is just my my hot take, my stance. The bottom line here for assignment design is to be very clear and transparent. If you are asking them to do something for you in writing or in an assignment task or something that you're having them do, you should have something in your grading that connects to that thing that they're doing. So each one of my rubric rows is something they were writing about in that template. And you can go back and see the template if you want to take a look and compare and contrast. Because this is an education program, I'm always going to throw in inclusive perspective because I want my teacher candidates to develop an asset-based or strength-based perspective on the work that they're doing at all times. So that's one that I know is in every class, I know is in throughout the teaching program. So that's going to be on almost all of my rubrics, unlike grammar and mechanics. We can debate on that if you'd like to. I love to. Okay, the next one is include formative low stakes assessment throughout your class. So creating these low stakes opportunities for your students to show what they know can just help everyone to achieve their best, to encourage that growth mindset in your students. And using Moodle quizzes, discussion forums, and questionnaires is a great way to create these quick and easy formative assessments. These might be graded in your class. Like I had repeatable quizzes in this class. You can see all of them here. These are quizzes that they can take, I can't remember how many times, 2 times. So if they don't like the grade that they got the first time around, they can take it again. And I've told my grade book to just keep the highest grade so it doesn't even hold on to the previous grade. You can still see it, but it doesn't factor into their final grade in the class. And so my goal with these reading quizzes was not to catch them out. Did you read? I'm going to catch you. If you didn't, you're going to be penalized. The goal here was really using the quizzes as a teaching tool. So they were pretty low stakes. They didn't factor in too heavily in their course grade, a quarter of their entire course, and they had 5 of them. So the stakes are relatively low on these quizzes. As opposed to like this one assignment that's 25% of their course grade. So relatively low stakes, and they can take them twice to try to get a better grade if they want to. And that practice, I also let them take the quiz after class. So they would read, they would come to class, we would talk about everything, we would go through exercises to apply, and then the quiz was due the following week after class. So they had tons of time, they could ask questions, they could repeat the quiz. My goal here was a quiz as a learning tool, not a quiz to catch them out and assess them deeply. I wanted them to learn from the quizzes, and they did. You can set your quizzes to have as many attempts as you like, and setting the highest grade allows them to get the grade that they want. You can do similar things with the questionnaire, but questionnaire is really a low stakes way to just check in and say, how are you doing? Or what do you think? Or how did this go for you? Discussion forums can also be a great place where your students get to do some writing and get to interact with other students, but think about how you want to set up your discussion forums and how you want it to feed into the students' final grades. But these low stakes, kind of outside of class opportunities to check in with them can help inform your teaching. So when I could see that a lot of students, even after 2 attempts, only would get a 70 or an 80 on that weekly quiz, that would be for me that moment of stopping and looking and thinking about what I could do to support them better. Accessible course content is the next one. WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. These are internationally benchmarked standards that are developed to help make web content more accessible to people with disabilities. The guidelines, if you click on this, will take you out to the guidelines. They're really detailed, going to give you way more information than you can probably take in as you're prepping for classes, but it's going to help you with things like websites, online courses, videos, documents. The whole idea here is that you want everyone who is in your class and experiencing learning with you to have access to that information on the device of their choosing or using. And that includes visual. Can everybody see everything and read everything visually that you've got? Auditory, if you have hearing tasks, can everyone access? Motor, can everyone use all the devices that they need for your class? And then cognitive and disabilities, have you accommodated for all of the learning disabilities? So this slide is an example of an inaccessible slide, because if you experience low vision or you need to use a screen reader to access information, this doesn't have alt text with it. It's just a static image on the page. A more accessible version of the poor principles is this. And the poor principles are basically, is the information you're sharing perceivable to everyone? Is it operable? Is your interface, is your Moodle course operable to everyone? Is it understandable? And is it robust? So you always want to be thinking about these principles as you are designing your course for accessibility. Okay, so some technology ideas that I have to help make your class a little more engaging. A virtual bulletin board, so you could use a discussion forum for students to share news or events. And I recently discovered that social work actually has a virtual discussion board that you all are encouraged to use, and it's sharing like important information with your students, like here's NAS weekend coming up. So use that and create your own if you'd like for your own class. Circle time, save the first 10 minutes for personal sharing or stories, and you can do that in breakout rooms using Zoom as your tool. Celebrate together, acknowledge birthdays, jobs, milestones. You're again going to do this in the Zoom space, or you're going to have a virtual board where your students can share these things. Incorporate emojis, something as simple as how are you feeling today? Go into the chat and select an emoji to share how you're feeling, and then you can see how everyone is feeling, or you could have a screen of emojis and label them 1 through 6, and everybody's got to pick how they're feeling. That's a great way to connect with your students. Have your virtual office hours. I mentioned this in a previous video, but setting up appointments for your students using Google Calendar is a great way to use tech to increase that connection with your students and let them know how to get a hold of you. And then using audio feedback on your students' work. So audio feedback in Moodle is accessed in any place where you have the grading tool set up. So this was just a sample lesson plan. I actually had AI develop a first grade lesson plan on the snowy day. And for this assignment, I just created this fake answer, but I used the video feedback tool to create a quick video of really nice job on your first grade lesson plan. I love the text, the snowy day. It's one of my favorites. Okay, I'm gonna stop. First grade lesson plan. Oh, I can't. Love the text, the snow. Okay. Really. So that's just me giving a fake response to my fake paper in this fake assignment. And I did this using the feedback tool found here in the speed grader. It's a little small, so I'm actually going to expand this side so you can see it. I just use the settings down here, so it's typically set to like here. You can expand so you can see it a little better. I just use this tool right here to video record an answer or feedback, and this is just nice job me in my home office talking, and I think you get 2 to 5 minutes, something like that. So use that video. There's also the audio feedback. If you know you have a student who would prefer to hear their feedback through audio, you can use audio, you can use video, you could even use YouTube if you wanted to. So that's going beyond just the written feedback that you would give your student. So check that out. We've talked a bit about these tools already, but discussion forums can be used both formally and informally. You can group your students, you can have student-led forums. A class wiki is another Moodle tool where everybody's kind of engaged on the same sort of information gathering task and putting it in a class wiki. You can even have a class glossary in Moodle, and this is actually going to take you out to Moodle US to show you. If you ever get stuck on Moodle, you can just Google Moodle and ask it questions and you can find the answers. This will take you through like how to set up a glossary and what it means. There's also a Moodle demo course that you can access. So it's Mount Orange University, and you can just go in and see what the class looks like. So this is a Moodle course where you can play and you can sign up to be the student or the teacher in that class. Okay. Check in with your students. Don't assume that your students immediately know how to use all the tech in your class. Check in with them, poll them, have a Moodle questionnaire, ask them how their learning is going. Sometimes our students sit stuck with a technology issue and don't tell us because they're afraid or they're embarrassed. So ask them how the tech is going, ask them how something works for them. When I was rolling out that whiteboard tool, I tried it with a group of faculty that were doing some professional development with me, and I was kind of obnoxious asking them for feedback. How did whiteboard work? How was getting into it? How was posting as a student? What worked? What didn't work? And that's just a great way for you to learn what they need and how that technology is working for you or not. So, if you're teaching online and you're doing live online, you're likely going to be using Zoom. And I've got some ideas for how to make your Zoom class more effective. And it starts here with setting some ground rules. On day one, make sure that everyone knows your expectations for your Zoom class. There are some examples out there of how you can do this. So, this is Cal State. They've got Zoom etiquette for you. You can take a look at how they do this, staying on topic, respecting others, be factual, how to call you, being cordial. And you can tell your students, like, cameras are on for this class, and here is why. Most importantly, if you set a guideline and it's not followed, email or message that student privately and start with, so I noticed in our last class your video was off for much of the class. This is just a gentle reminder that it's really important to be part of our community and to show that you're engaged with your classmates. And the way that you do that is to have your camera on. Is there some reason why you couldn't have your camera on? Please just let me know. I'm happy to support you and help you in any way that I can. So that's a nice warm message that helps your students understand you have expectations, you notice when they're not being met, and you want to know how you can help support them because they didn't meet your expectation this time around. Often they just need one or two of those reminders, and then they are understanding of those ground rules that you set. So set some ground rules, tell your students the expectations you have, and follow through when they're not met. Think about your class pacing. So give your students breaks. It's better to do five. It's not better, but some options are giving shorter 5-minute breaks, one long break, and you can ask your students, what do you prefer? Do you want a short break? Do you want a long break? Often five, if you're doing a live online Zoom class, is enough for them to go get a snack or use the bathroom and come back. Chunk your content, break up your Zoom sessions into small chunks. Try not to talk at your students for longer than 15 minutes. So this webinar that I'm doing right now is a terrible example of an inclusive Zoom class. Don't talk at them for longer than 15 minutes without giving them a break or embedding some sort of active learning strategy. Share an agenda. At the start of the class, tell your students what you're going to be doing. Include timestamps or minute amounts for how long you're going to be doing it, and then stick to that. Assign a timekeeper. If you say we're going to spend 20 minutes on this discussion, don't let it slide to 40 because that makes your students anxious. They start to think, oh no, we're not going to cover everything. I'm not going to get everything I needed, or now what will we do? Don't do that. Stick to your time and have a timekeeper if that's not a strength of yours. Long Zoom meetings can feel really exhausting for your students, but if you break them up, give them a chance to step away and give time expectations, it can help your students. Get to know your Zoom tools. Use chat for feedback. Encourage your students to use the chat function. If you are not great at monitoring the chat and running the class and doing the slides all at once, it is hard. It requires coordination. If that's not a strength of yours, assign somebody else to monitor the chat and allow them to interrupt you to say, hey, somebody had a really good question. That's totally acceptable. Use the Zoom whiteboard. I also shared with you the Microsoft whiteboard, but use those as a shared space for everybody to collaborate, use markup tools. You can also, if you use the Zoom version, save it and add it to your Moodle course later. You can do the same thing for the whiteboard in Microsoft. Add an app. Zoom has lots of apps like timers and music and note takers and quiz tools. Kahoot is a good option. They're all integrated into the Zoom. And if you click on the more options and choose apps, you can add apps to your actual Zoom platform. Oops, I missed my note at the bottom. You can find other Zoom meeting tools and tutorials here, which is actually, again, a vendor tool, the Zoom support, and they have a whole page on participant engagement features like using Q&A, posting a survey before your class, pre-assigned breakout rooms. So check all of these features out. The more tools you can use and the savvier you are, the more your students are likely to enjoy your Zoom classes. And then last but not least, practice makes perfect. The more you Zoom, the better you get at it. There's lots of tools and integrations available. Open up an empty Zoom room before your class and play. Give it a go. They're always developing new tools and upgrading things. So get in there and try things out. The last slide I'm going to share with you is some resources. If you feel like you need more help, our Teaching and Learning Technologies group, of which I am the director, they have lots of workshops and opportunities. You can see Mary Beth Kuhn is running some sessions, some clinics, some opportunities to learn more about Moodle. We have the faculty support site, which I've already referenced, and we have a whole Moodle section so you can see the content for Moodle here. And then TLT also has a training playlist. So these are many of the sessions that Mary Beth has run in the last several months on Moodle, how to use the grader report, how to set up gradebook. She's got full-length virtual sessions that she has done here at Nazareth, and she's got these little snippet videos too. So check out that playlist, subscribe to it. I feel like an influencer. So link to and subscribe here. But you can follow along and get updates when any new videos are posted. So that is all I have for you folks. Good luck. I hope this workshop series is helpful. I'm here for you if you need anything special, but I also know you're in great hands in social work. You've got some tech leaders and some really wonderful program leaders, program chairs to help guide you through the process of teaching fully online here at Nazareth. So please don't be a stranger. Reach out if you've got any questions, come to sessions. Happy to engage and happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks, everybody.